Today I'm going to explain the movie The Shawshank Redemption, a gripping drama about a man wrongly imprisoned who spends decades in a brutal prison, forming an unexpected friendship and secretly planning the ultimate escape. Stay tuned to see how he outsmarts everyone in one of the most legendary prison break stories ever. In 1947, a banker named Andy Dufresne is sent to Shawshank prison after being convicted of murdering his wife and her lover. He gets 2 life sentences because the state of Maine does not have the death penalty. Andy insists he is innocent, but his cold and serious personality makes others think he is guilty. Ellis Redding is a prisoner who smuggles items for other inmates. He has been in Shawshank for 20 years for murder. When he applies for parole, it gets rejected, but he does not seem too upset. One night, a new group of prisoners arrives. Red and his friends bet on which one will break down and cry first. Red bets on Andy. But instead, another prisoner, nicknamed Fat Ass, cries loudly. A guard named Hadley beats him severely for making noise. The next morning, the prisoners learn that Fat Ass died because the prison doctor had already left for the night. When Andy asks for his real name, another prisoner, Haywood, makes fun of him. Most prisoners think Andy is distant and strange, but Red sees something different. Andy asks Red to get him a small rock pick for carving stones. Red jokes that Andy might want to escape with it, but when he sees how small the tool is, he realizes it's only for a hobby. Andy has a hard time in prison. A group of violent inmates, led by a man named Boggs, often attacks him. For 2 years, Andy works in the prison laundry and struggles to defend himself from them. In 1949, Red arranges for Andy and some friends to work on the roof of a building. There, Andy overhears guard Hadley complaining about taxes. Andy offers to help him legally avoid paying so much. At first, Hadley threatens to throw Andy off the roof, but he listens when Andy explains the plan. In exchange, Hadley gets cold beers for the prisoners. Red believes Andy did this to gain favor with both the guards and the inmates, but also just to feel normal again. Later, Andy asks Red for a large poster of an actress named Rita Hayworth. Red is surprised but agrees. Soon after, Andy is attacked again and is beaten so badly that he spends a month in the infirmary. Boggs, the leader of the attackers, is punished and put in solitary confinement. When Boggs is released, Hadley and other guards beat him so badly that he is left unable to walk or eat solid food. He is sent to another prison hospital, and his gang leaves Andy alone after that. When Andy returns from the infirmary, he finds a gift in his cell, rocks for carving and the poster of Rita Hayworth from Red and his friends. The prison warden, Samuel Norton, learns that Andy helped Hadley with his taxes. He searches Andy's cell and finds him reading a Bible. They talk about their favorite verses. Before leaving, Norton tells Andy, salvation lies within. The warden assigns Andy to work in the prison library, officially to help an older inmate named Brooks. But in reality, Andy is there to handle financial matters for the prison staff. Andy also starts writing letters to the government asking for funds to improve the library. Over time, even guards from other prisons come to Andy for financial advice. One day, Brooks snaps and holds a knife to another prisoner's throat because he does not want to be released. Andy calms him down. Brooks is paroled in 1954 after 50 years in prison, but he struggles to live outside. He gets a job at a supermarket, but he feels lost and alone, unable to adjust. He eventually takes his own life, carving the words "Brooks was here" into a wooden beam before he dies. After years of writing letters, Andy finally gets $200 and some old books for the library. Among the donations is a record of an opera song. Andy plays it over the prison's loudspeakers, letting all the inmates hear the music. The warden punishes him by putting him in solitary confinement. When Andy is released, he tells Red that hope keeps him going. Red has another parole hearing after 30 years in prison. He repeats the same words he said 10 years earlier, but without any real emotion. His parole is rejected again. Andy gives him a harmonica to mark his 30 years, and Red gives Andy a new poster, this time of Marilyn Monroe, to celebrate Andy's 10 years in prison. Years later, the state decides to give Andy more funding for the library instead of just another small check. He expands it, creates the best prison library in the state, and names it after Brooks. Andy also starts helping other prisoners study so they can earn their high school diplomas. The warden makes a lot of money using prisoners as cheap labor. Andy helps him hide the money using a fake identity named Randall Stevens, who exists only on paper. Andy jokes to Red that he had to go to prison to learn how to be a real criminal.
I had to come to prison to be a crook.
In 1965, a young prisoner named Tommy arrives at Shawshank. He has been in and out of jail since he was 13. Andy suggests he try something new since he is not good at stealing. Tommy takes this advice seriously and asks Andy to help him study for a high school diploma. But when he takes the exam, he gets frustrated and throws it away. Andy secretly retrieves it and sends it in anyway. Red shares Andy's case with Tommy, who is visibly shaken upon hearing the details. Disturbed, Tommy reveals that during his time at another prison, his cellmate boasted about killing a professional golfer and his lover at the country club where he worked. The man's wife had been married to a banker, who was wrongfully convicted and sent to prison for the crime. Andy rushes to inform Warden Norton, but instead of acting, Norton dismisses the claim. When Andy assures him he won't expose the money laundering operation, the warden grows enraged and punishes him with a month in solitary. The inmates react in shock, noting that it's the longest solitary sentence they've ever heard of. Meanwhile, they begin to suspect that Andy might truly be innocent, meaning he's wasted nearly 2 decades behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. In the midst of this, Tommy receives a letter from the Board of Education, confirming that he has passed his exam and officially earned his high school diploma. A guard relays the news to Andy in solitary. One night, Tommy is taken outside for a private meeting with the warden. Norton calmly asks if his story is true and whether he'd be willing to testify for Andy. Tommy eagerly agrees. The warden gives him a reassuring smile, then nods to Hadley, who executes Tommy on the spot. The next day, Norton visits Andy in solitary, claiming Tommy tried to escape and was shot in the attempt. Andy sees through the lie and firmly declares that he will no longer work for Norton. The warden retaliates, threatening to dismantle the library, destroy the books, and transfer Andy to the most dangerous part of the prison if he refuses to cooperate. To break his spirit further, he extends Andy's time in solitary for another month. After 2 months, a disheveled Andy is finally released. He confides in Red, saying that if he ever gets out, he dreams of going to Zihuatanejo, a peaceful beach town on Mexico's Pacific coast. He also reminisces about his engagement, recalling a trip to Buxton, Maine, where he and his fiancée visited a large oak tree at the end of a stone wall. Andy urges Red, should he ever be paroled, to find that spot. Concerned, Red fears Andy is contemplating suicide, especially when he hears that Andy has asked another inmate for a rope. The next morning, Andy is gone. At roll call, the guards discover his cell is empty. Furious, Norton throws a rock at the poster on Andy's wall, only to reveal a tunnel behind it. Over 20 years, Andy had painstakingly used a rock hammer to dig his way to freedom, one handful of dirt at a time. The night before, Andy escaped through a tunnel and the prison's sewage system, taking Warden Norton's suit, shoes, and a ledger packed with evidence of Shawshank's money laundering and corruption. The next morning, he strolls into the Maine National Bank in Portland, where Norton's hidden fortune awaits. Posing as Randall Stevens and armed with the necessary documents, Andy walks out with a cashier's check. He then visits nearly a dozen other banks, collecting a total of $370,000. Before vanishing, he ensures Norton's crimes are exposed. Hadley is arrested, and Norton, realizing his fate, takes his own life. At Red's 1967 parole hearing, he abandons cliches, admitting that rehabilitated is just a meaningless word. He expresses deep regret for his past, and this time, they set him free. Struggling to adjust outside, he fears he'll never belong. But he remembers his promise to Andy. Hitchhiking to Buxton, he finds the stone wall, just as Andy described. Beneath a large black rock, he uncovers a small box. Inside, stacks of cash and a letter inviting him to join Andy. Knowing no one will bother chasing an old crook, Red breaks parole, leaves the halfway house, and boards a bus to Fort Hancock, Texas. From there, he crosses into Mexico. Finally, on the Pacific shores of Zihuatanejo, he and Andy reunite at last.